I frankly don't know how the Brooklyn Nets can feel confident or comfortable at all running any of this back. Knowing what we know about Kyrie Irving, knowing now what we're seeing from Kevin Durant, I just don't know how the Nets can feel any level of comfort saying, you know what, we want to keep this thing together and try it again, unless you were just so terrified of the alternative. Because let's just make sure we are clear on this. For Kevin Durant to say it's me or them is telling Joe Tsai that A, the guy that actually has had more success in a Brooklyn Nets uniform than Kevin Durant, Sean Marks, who helped drag that franchise out of the muck, out of the darkness after the failed Celtics deal from a number of years ago. That guy's not worthy of his job. That's what you're saying. Now, KD has had no success in a Brooklyn uniform. Sean Marks helped build up from nothing, at the very least, a playoff team even before Kyrie and KD got there. So that's the first thing. Disrespect to the GM, even though KD's done nothing in a Nets uniform. Number two, to look at Steve Nash and say it's me or him. Why do you think that Steve Nash is there? Steve Nash was a personal trainer workout guy with Kevin Durant at Golden State. The entire Steve Nash assistant coaching staff all have Kevin Durant ties. They specifically built a staff for Kevin Durant. So now KD's also saying me or him, or me or them. Them and him are there because of you. So if you want to trust Kevin Durant, you've got to trust him in those two realms, which I couldn't possibly do in good faith. You could make the argument that perhaps Steve Nash is in over his head. But for Kevin Durant to say, fire the GM, fire the coach, or you got to trade me, is incredible. Unless all of this is simply a way for him to say, get rid of Kyrie Irving or get rid of me, but I can't say that because I can't offend my buddy. Unless somehow the Sean Marks, Steve Nash thing is a stand-in for what he doesn't like about Kyrie Irving and just basically is giving Joe Tsai an ultimatum that he knows is really about trading Kevin Durant, but KD can't say you got to trade me because I hate Kyrie. Because he can't say that because they're buds. So he's got to say trade me because I hate fill in the blank, the GM and the head coach. All of this is just an example of how you can't trust either one of those guys to be the focal points, the centerpieces of your franchise. And I totally understand you're going, yeah, but if you sell off Kevin Durant, you're going to get 75 cents on the dollar at best, DA. You aren't getting back a Hall of Fame player. And you yourself, DA, just said after the baseball trade deadline that if you trade away a Hall of Fame player at his prime, no matter how many prospects or draft picks you get back, you'll never equal the Hall of Fame player at his prime, a.k.a. the Juan Soto deal. And that is true. But Juan Soto hasn't had a 15-year history of bailing when it's tough or joining because it's easy or bickering with fans, with opponents, with analysts, with sportscasters, with randos on social media, of having the I'm not happy every 5 minutes of his career. Soto didn't have that, nor did the other guys that I was talking about have that. That part of Kevin Durant is specific to Kevin Durant. You get into a relationship with somebody who is a depressed individual, somebody who lacks any ability to find their own happiness or direction or is flippant or changes by the wind, you are at their mercy. You are at their mercy. The Nets can't help that about Kevin Durant. Cut bait, get out of doing business with KD and Kyrie. This is too much. 855-212-4CBS, Twitter, DA on CBS. And perhaps it's exactly what Kevin Durant wants, just making as much noise as possible until he gets his way, and you don't want to just serve him his way. But what's the alternative? Again, being in business with this guy who wants both the GM and the head coach that he picked to be fired? Come on. I don't know where this leaves a Nets fan such as Mraz. I really don't. I don't know where this leaves you because I saw you on Twitter yesterday saying you'd rather keep Kevin Durant because the other two guys haven't accomplished anything either.
And I'm extremely thankful that it seems like the far majority of Nets fans agree with me. This is easy. This isn't even a second thought. And I know it doesn't make it right, and it's a deal with the devil, but DA, I can't reiterate this enough. It is so easy to say when you aren't a Nets fan that this is what you should do. Don't get in bed with him anymore. Get rid of him and let Sean Marks build this team right. It is so hard to build an NBA championship team. It is so hard. They are not the Celtics. They are not the Lakers. No free agents come here, and the best draft picks, first-round picks, they always seem to turn up solid, good players. Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, Jared Allen. But they never get that premier prestige guy in the draft. They have that here, another guy who can still play in his prime for another 2-3 years. Maybe they don't win a championship, but their best path to a championship is still the devil deal made with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And if not, they are at best the spunky 6th seed. And by the time, by the way, they even get close to maybe thinking they're about a championship team, Joseph Tsai is going to get impatient and probably fire Sean Marks anyway and then restart. So to me, do it now and make the deals with the superstars and let the chips fall where they may.
So two things. You say we never get the Tier A free agent, but you got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
That was it.
Do you think it could never happen again? I mean,
especially not if they see that they just threw these two superstars out after they wanted a little say.
They're not throwing them out. These guys are demanding out.
Well, but exactly. They were in enough of a situation that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving weren't happy. And whatever we think of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving is fine, clearly other NBA superstars gravitate and like these guys, clearly, including Kyrie Irving.
Well, I don't know. Do you think people like Kyrie Irving or just Kevin Durant likes Kyrie Irving? Or even Kevin Durant might not like Kyrie Irving anymore?
Oh, I think yesterday, was further proof that this is all about Kevin Durant did not like the way the front office treated Kyrie Irving without giving him an extension. I think that much became very clear yesterday, that this is about Kyrie Irving.
You don't think this could be a leverage point to get me away from Kyrie?
Absolutely not.
He's asking for a trade.
Yeah, and the Nets have basically said Kyrie's gone after this year because we're not signing him long-term to an extension. I think this is so clear that he tied himself to Kyrie and doesn't like that the Nets aren't going out of their way now to give Kyrie the same extension they gave him.
The second part of it is I don't understand why you have no faith in Sean Marks. This franchise was at the absolute dregs of the league. They had no assets.
You're right.
And piece by piece, brick by brick, he helped build them into, again, maybe a 6th seed, but a series of assets, a series of draft picks, and a series of really smart basketball moves to get them out. Had he been given 5 more years, even without Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you could make the argument he was going to build them into a great NBA franchise.
DA, I have no qualms with the way Sean Marks built up that team with D'Angelo Russell and Jared Allen and such. And it was a fun team. But that was unless you get a superstar, which they ended up getting with Kevin Durant, what is you? What is you at all? You're a team that's going to be fun to watch throughout the regular season, but ultimately lose to whatever one of the 3 or 4 powerhouses there are. It's just the way the league is structured. Now, if you want to tell me you give them another 5 years and then they're a contender, they're only that if they absolutely hit on a star in the draft. That's just the way the league operates. The Jazz got really good because they hit on Donovan Mitchell. Like all of these teams, it's all about hitting on the right A star and then having that team built around him. He proved he's good at building that team around them, but how can I guarantee that he's going to draft a superstar? It's so hard to do.
Because look at what he did with almost no assets. He has such an eye for talent. He did find Jarrett Allen. He did find Spencer Dinwiddie. He did find Joe Harris. He did find all these guys, Karis LeVert, and they had no assets. He gave Mozgov all that money because he knew he could flip the D'Angelo Russell deal around. I mean, he made like 5 or 6 really smart basketball moves.
He's great at building a core roster, but a core roster only gets you so far in the NBA.
But he might be great at building more of it. He just didn't have the time until KD and Kyrie wanted to come.
But he could have said no. They could have said no to KD. But why didn't you? Why didn't you say no? Because you knew that was your best path to a championship, which is my point.
But maybe you see now that this is not tenable, so you got to jettison these guys and start over again, and maybe you wait for the next Tier A superstar to want to come, and then, that's your focal point. But why trust Kevin Durant over a guy that did his job as well as Sean Marks could have possibly done? No GM could have done a better job with what he was handed. Why would you fire that guy?
Because I'm trusting the guy with a ring on his finger in Kevin Durant. And I'm trusting the fact that...
Think about that.
35 years on this earth, I've never seen the Nets win a championship. I saw a couple finals appearances with Jason Kidd. I am assuming that if I make it another 35 years, if they dump Kevin Durant out, I am never also going to see an NBA championship. This is my window right now. And also, you're talking about an owner that invested so much money recently. That's the other underlying part of this in Joseph Tsai. And publicly last night, he's tweeting about, I'm going to stand behind my front office. That's fine. But when nobody shows up to the Barclays Center and you can't sell Ben Simmons jerseys and the places it goes down and you're never on national TV anymore, and even if you build back up that fun team, I don't trust this owner to stay patient enough another 5, 6, 7 years down the road to allow Marks to build to the point where they would be a championship contender again. So if in the end my assumption is he's going to get impatient, we're going to go 5 years, and he pulls the plug before the team's built up back to being a champion, I'd rather pull the plug now and give the money to the superstars and let them run the team.
Well, I mean, then you're assuming that as good as Marks' job could be, he's going to get fired anyway, and that would be a shame. I think Sean Marks is a top 5 to top 6 GM in the NBA. I think he's shown no reason to not believe he's really, really good at this. He's from the San Antonio Spurs system. He knows how to build a roster. He was doing so with no assets whatsoever. He identified talent in the draft, not even at the top of the draft. If you give him time and resources, he'll get it done. And Kevin Durant, why would you ever trust that he's going to deliver you a championship? He delivered championships to a team that couldn't lose.
I'm looking at my percentage of chances of winning a championship, and it tells me in the next 2-3 years, I have a chance with Kevin Durant. I don't think in the next 5-7 years I have a chance at a championship with Sean Marks.